Welcome back to the Highway 49 podcast. We are back with episode 117 of the show. Got a lot to talk about today, guys. It's going to be broken up in a couple different segments. Jeremy and I recorded our recap from the North Carolina Charlotte game earlier this morning, so we'll plug that later. Hannah was working Elon, watching them smash Davidson over the weekend. So it's going to be broken up a little bit differently. We're going to hit the preview for Monmouth, a must win game for Charlotte. Going to talk some of the presser takeaways, some updates for Niners in the NFL, and a preview for another pod coming this week. But as always, before we dive in, let's hit the best thing we've seen this week. Jay, talk to us, man.
Whew, I needed 10 points from Roma Dunze to win my week one fantasy matchup. He had 5 points for majority of the game. The Bears start crumbling in the second half of that game after the pick six. Everything started not going their way. And I lost hope. I said, you know what? I'm going to lose by 3 points in this fantasy matchup week one. I lost my fantasy league last year, so I had to paint my entire self green.
I'm
And
gonna drop that picture over
honestly,
as the
please don't.
overlay is gonna play. Yeah.
Yes, I'll send you another one if you need it. But I lost, so our punishment was you have to paint your entire self green from head to toe, and go out to the bars for a day and Saturday. So we went to Sycamore and QC Poorhouse and um, Tiger Creek
That's
and all these
all.
places, and the amount of looks I got, I can't wait to see the overlay that Hunter puts in. My face is green, everything, like my entire body is green, and the amount of looks I got, it was so funny. I had a shirt that says "I suck at fantasy." All that to say that I needed to start off this year with the and
What what's the punishment for this year?
Oh, every year it's just rolls
It's
over.
the same thing.
So whoever loses has to paint their entire self green and go out to the bars for one day when all of our friends are back in town. So it was fun. It wasn't that bad. I thought it'd be worse, but I needed to start off with the win, so got that win. Thank you, Roma Dunze, for that late touchdown that got me a week one win, and hopefully we can go 2-0 going forward. But Hannah, what was the best thing that you have seen this week?
Well, I gotta say, first off, I mean, you sent us a picture of those chicken wings you were just cooking. So, I mean, that's one of the best things that I've seen this week. Those look scrumptious. So, our fans listening, Jeremy can cook.
Hunter, you might need to put that picture on here
You
too.
should.
Yeah, another overlay. Just Jay's
Um,
life personified.
For me, also, though, like we mentioned, just seeing Elon back in action, being on the sidelines, seeing them win 55-7 over Davidson after a 2-hour weather delay. It was just nice to get the game in. Just a great game of football. Super exciting to be back there this season for the Phoenix. But fun weekend of college football and NFL, a lot of upsets. And just some really good close games. So it was just a fun weekend overall. But Hunter, what's the best thing that you have seen this week?
Definitely. I think everyone listening to this would love to see a blowout football win this weekend. Mine is definitely NFL being back, just chilling on Sunday and having Red Zone on, get the quad box going, whatever it is that you want to do, and just eating good food and watching football. It was nice to see some former Niners around the league. I want to give an update on those guys really quick. Three of them were playing on Sunday. There are currently four right now, if you include Demetrius Knight, which I do. So Alex Highsmith for the Pittsburgh Steelers, monster game for him. Six hurries, a QB hit, and a sack of Justin Fields in that win. Totaled six tackles. It's just another day's work for him. He's continuing to be one of the best kind of young edges in the league, and I mean, I think this is year five for him, so he's getting old now, man. Come on, Highsmith. I guess the guy on the opposite end of the line for him in 2019, Marquise Watts, is down in Tampa Bay. He's playing a ton on special teams. That's really his primary role right now. And the Bucks look good. So happy for him. As I mentioned, Larry Ogunjobi, he's with the Bills. They got a monster win. He's actually out for the first six games of the year, suspended for violating the NFL's PED policy, but he'll be back like I say, after those 6 weeks. And then Demetrius Knight, I don't want to talk about him for a second. That kid is a stud. I know he only played 1 year at Charlotte, so people will have stuff to say about that. But still, to this day, one of my favorite players I've covered here as far as a personality and play standpoint. And he was one of the guys. So the Bengals had a bunch of disputes. We saw everything with Trey Hendrickson. They just got their first round pick signed not too long before Demetrius Knight signed around that same time. And his NFL debut, he's flying around 10 tackles and a PBU for a rookie. That's what you want to see. It's part of why the Bengals actually got a win in week one, which you know has been hard for them lately. And that's a team that Tim Albin watches a lot. He's got a close relationship with Joe Burrow. He mentioned that today. So, quick update on Niners in the league, and one more little newsy thing before we dive into the presser. Biff Poggi back in the head coaching seat for the next couple of Michigan games. He'll lead them. They play at home against Central Michigan this Saturday, and then they go to Nebraska. So Biff Poggi at Nebraska. That's going to be a really good game. And I'll be interested to kind of see how that works. It is funny seeing some of the funny Poggi moments back in the media because shit, we had a lot of them, and the three of us were there for all of that. So, best of luck, Biff, and we'll see what happens with that. But let's get to today, guys. Presser takeaways coming off of the loss at North Carolina, prepping for Charlotte's only FCS opponent of the season. Just want to open it up to you guys, Hannah and then Jeremy. What were some of your thoughts from Tim Alvin's media availability today?
Thought it was definitely an interesting presser. We got a much longer opening statement than he
About
normally gives.
7 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, very, very long. Acknowledged, Niner Nation, thanked them for the support, thanked them for the crowd on Saturday and just everything that the game was, which is great. But also I could see there was a lot of, reflection on the team that he has now. Talking about some of the injuries and how they're kind of it's affecting practice and that's affecting the gameplay is what he was kind of alluding to and really he didn't say it, but it kind of addressing the lack of talent and with the injuries and saying that they're trying to get this thing back on track and trying to figure out what's going wrong, going back, looking at film and checking the play calling and trying to figure out how to move forward based on the past two games. And he's kind of doubling down on Connor Harrell and based on what I was reading and what you guys have said, and he seemed to improve from week one to two, and I don't think he was the main issue. So he's his guy, and it's just interesting to hear his thoughts, his perspective. But definitely an interesting presser. I am looking forward to seeing what the heck happens this week. Jeremy, what were your thoughts?
He's using every euphemism to not say we're not good enough. Quote
Bingo.
here, when addressing the run, he said, I gotta tip my cap to App and UNC. It's not just schematics. It's not just schematics as well. So it's like even though they might be like out coaching us or like maybe we're not calling the right place, it's not just that. What that means is it's personnel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It goes way deeper than just the X's and O's of this. He said it before. UNC had a heavy, heavy group. He praised App State's, dominance at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And then he also said, quote, good coaches fix problems. Really good coaches fix what causes problems. So
Bar.
that was big for me, where he's saying, I need to look within and see what I can do better because if we don't have the personnel that I think we need to win in this conference, to win these big games, then I need to bear that responsibility on my shoulders. And somehow, I don't know how, but I need to coach this team better or get these guys more prepared or want them to run through a wall in order to stay in these games because right now the product they're putting on the field is just simply not that great.
Yeah, one thing that's ringing in my head right now, and I mentioned Biff a minute ago, but he came on this pod and said, give Tim time.
Mhm.
And I agree with that. Some of the things that Tim has said at some of these pressers, we've had questions about. Jeremy and I kind of dove into some of them. Um, you want to see this team play better, just top to bottom. You want to see the players get a win. And I'm going to say it now Saturday's must win. If you don't beat Monmouth, you're on the FCS school on the schedule. This schedule starts to look like where are the wins? Because I don't see many. Massive game. They have to find a way. We're going to get to the Monmouth preview in a minute. I want to talk injuries really fast because this is kind of a topic. And um, we asked him after App State, give us an injury update. The only players he mentioned were Henry Rutledge and Adam Hopkins. And then after the North Carolina game, he says Jade McGowan's out for the year. He got hurt against App State. So a little bit of a disconnect there. Now we know Jade McGowan's out with a lower leg injury for the season. I'm assuming ACL, MCL, we don't know. DJ Burgess, in my opinion, the best defensive line player and the media availability we got last week. He actually had me fired up to watch him going into this game. He's now out for the season with an upper body injury. Tim did give some clarification on Sean Brown and Henry Rutledge not playing a lot. He said Henry Rutledge, kind of what he was worried about with the injury, came back to bite them. He's now awaiting an MRI, so we'll see what's going on with Henry. I did see him walking off the practice field today. That's the only tidbit I have is when I was parking. Sean Brown, he said he didn't practice today. He's got a contusion. And then Johnny King, center, is doubtful. I just want to talk about the O line for just a second. If Johnny King's not playing, you're on red alert, right? There's no one else proven on this line. We talked to Mason Bowers today, and I liked what he had to say. He's got a lot of reps, a lot of snaps throughout his years of college football, but he can only play one spot. So you really need to see some of these other guys take steps, and it's not sounding like Mitchell Mays is going to be an option at this point on the O line.
Yeah, so Hunter and I taped the recap for the UNC game before the presser, and then right after we finished taping, we both got in our cars and zipped over to the Charlotte football presser. But something that we addressed in the recap that I think, or I wanted to follow up with Tim about, I asked him about Connor Harrell about how he said him being a dual threat QB is a bonus. And I kind of asked him like, did you mean bonus or did you mean that that's who he is? And he gave us a little bit of a clarification. He did say that UNC's edges are surfers. And
Yeah.
by surfers, he means that you usually want to hand the ball off in an RPO instead of keeping it and trying to run with it as the QB because those surfers can go back and forth really easily and be able to target some of the QB runs there. So I just want to make sure that we clear that up. People listen to the recap after this and then know that he did give an answer to the questions that we had beforehand.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought that was a good question by you to get clarification on that. And he did double down on what he said. And he also said he doesn't want his quarterback to be a running back. He doesn't want them to have double digit carries per game, which is a philosophy change from his time at Ohio, at least last season. Parker Navarro rushed for 1,000 yards, was the second leading rusher on the team there, the Ohio quarterback. And Ohio, by the way, just beat West Virginia over the weekend, so they're on the way up. Or I guess still where they are, but they do play Ohio State this weekend, so they might crash down a
Yeah.
little bit. Um, Back to this Charlotte presser. I think the biggest thing now is where does the offense go from here? I think this is kind of a nice segue into the Monmouth preview because Charlotte's going to have to score a lot of points to win this game. Monmouth has scored well over 40 points in both of their games so far, and it is against FCS competition, but these are decent FCS teams that they're playing against. And just based on Charlotte's history, I want to read you guys the past, I guess, post-COVID numbers against FCS teams. 2021, when right after Charlotte beat Duke, they blow out Gardner-Webb 38-10. You feel good about that. That was a solid season, at least in the front end for the 49ers. Coming the next year, Jeremy, this is your first year covering the team, 22. They're going into William and Mary at home with a backup quarterback. They get smashed by William and Mary 41-24. And it wasn't even out coached. They were out muscled on the field. William and Mary did whatever they wanted. The following year, Biff Poggi's first year, Healy, the claims to fire him were all over the place after that one. 2023, week one, it's 24-3 over South Carolina State. That score looks fine. You win by 3 scores. The game was way closer than it should have been, though. Charlotte missed a lot of opportunities. I remember that very well. And then last year against Gardner Webb, again, a young quarterback in to start the game. You at one point, I think they're down 20-3 in that game. Charlotte would come back to win 27-26. Shout out Trexler Ivy, saved a lot of jobs that night. So the FCS margin is thin. I mean, that's I said all that to say that basically, and they have been manhandled by an FCS team in the past few seasons.
Yeah, when asked about scouting Monmouth, Tim said, they're a high tempo team. They do a lot of RPO and they have a gunslinger, and they absolutely do. Derek Robertson, grad student, in his first two games this season, game one, 34-45 for 491 yards, four touchdowns, but four interceptions. He is a gunslinger at its finest. He's letting the ball rip. And then their running back, Rodney Nelson, 22 carries for 169 yards and two touchdowns. That's the first game. They pull out a nail biter against Colgate. And then they go into Fordham, and Derek has 29 for 43 for 342, six touchdowns and one interception, and then had a rushing touchdown. So he contributed to every single score in that game. They put up 49 on Fordham. And then Rodney Nelson, the running back, again, gives you 25 carries for 112 yards with an average of 4.5 yards. So this team is electric. They are going to put points on the board. I don't think that's a question. Now it's about, like Hunter said, can this offense keep up at all? Can you do anything? Can you hit that corner three early? Because if you can't, we might be coming on here on Tuesday and having some weird conversations.
Yeah, I think this is a game for Charlotte where it's kind of like, okay, who are you? What's your identity? Can you produce? This is a definite must win, like Hunter said. And for Coach Albin, he's also sweating a little bit too. I mean, even though he did take a lot of time to produce at Ohio, you're sitting week 3 and you want to produce. Your fan base does expect a lot from you. Um, and he said they're gonna have to play their best game, period. So I think that's the mantra going into this when you cannot um, lose this one if you're Charlotte, in my personal opinion. It's just going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, the zoom out really fast is we are exactly where we thought we would be at this point. You're 0-2. You're going into a game that you know you need to win at some point. Like we knew that when the schedule came out last summer. So now, obviously, you didn't think the offense would be where it's at. This is a get right game for the offense. This is a game where you have to run for 100 plus yards. You can't have this 29 carries for 21 yards deal going on, even with the sack totals. What they put on film last week's not good enough. They're not getting any push up front. This is a massive game. I mean, it's a sold out crowd again, right? And they might be seeing one of their only home wins, if not wins of the year, if this doesn't go if this goes how it's going, right? I think when you look at this game, Charlotte's going to have to let Connor Harrell run the ball. I don't really know another way to say it. If Sean Brown's not going to play, if Henry Rutledge is not going to play, we know Jaden McGowan, who's like your dynamic slot guy, is out for the year. You need more Javen Nicholas. He played well. You need CJ Stokes to find a way to get in stride, and the defense is going to have to play lights out. Because regardless, I don't see how this Charlotte offense is scoring 30 plus points.
Yeah, we talked to Caleb Curtin in the Tuesday presser today. He said, quote, doesn't matter what situation we're in, doesn't matter how bad the offense is. And I think he caught himself after he said it, like, oh,
Yeah.
he shouldn't have said that. But I will say that the UNC and App State game, you kind of went into those, like Hunter said, this is where you'd be expected to be. You're 0-2 going into Monmouth. This is what it's all about, guys. Game on the line. This is it. Week
Yeah.
Yeah.
three, Monmouth, FCS, you got to win this one. And I'm kind of fired up talking about it because I'm just thinking like this is it. We've seen this game every year. We've seen it in the Biff Poggi era. We've seen it in the Will Healy era. There are must-win games on the schedule, and I really hope Charlotte can come out with a W in this one.
Mhm.
And when you look at this team, they're returning five all-conference players from a year ago. Monmouth is with the we mentioned him, Derek Robertson being the guy on offense who was first team last year. So as Jeremy mentioned, he threw four picks in the opener, which is unlike him. Last season, he threw for right at 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, and just six interceptions. Through two games, he's already got five. The common theme is when he's under pressure. He was only under pressure 11% of the time. That's five dropbacks against Colgate, and he threw three of his four picks in that setting. That screams Charlotte needs to get pressure with four. Charlotte needs to blitz, get in this guy, speed his clock up because when he's kept clean, he's 33 of 39 for 500 yards and four touchdowns, right? he's not going to make a ton of mistakes. Charlotte's going to have to speed his clock up. Charlotte's going to need these edge rushers to make it go.
Who was the receiver who dropped the catch on the fourth down scramble Connor Harrell?
EJ Mason,
EJ
who
Mason
caught the only touchdown that Charlotte scored this week
did
or
also
this
catch
season.
the only touchdown. Those plays can't happen.
Nope.
It's
Yeah.
Monmouth. You have to get every point possible against this team. You can't have those drops on crucial downs. You can't have the penalties that make you have a 3rd and 3 to a 3rd and 8, or a holding call that goes a 3rd and 3 to a 3rd and 13. That is going to be how small the margin of error is in this game. And we talked about missed opportunities for the first two games of the season. This is when we see if the practice that they are putting in is paying off in the game, because the team like Monmouth with an offensive powerhouse in the FCS like they are,
Yeah.
you really can't make mistakes. So I mean, let's see it, man. I'm getting a little hyped up here,
Getting a little fired up.
right?
One other thing, and I meant to bring it up today, they put a mic in the presser, which I know is good for the fans. I hope that they get another one in there so we're not scrambling to get the singular mic. Connor Harrell was good, especially in the play action game on Saturday night. PFF win play action, which they ran about 29% of the time. He was 10 of 13 for 82 yards. That's his highest QB rating of 92.5. So you like that aspect. If they're going to continue to struggle at center, which we saw a lot of the bad snaps, maybe Johnny was hurt prior, which contributed to that. I don't know. We haven't gotten to talk to him. If that's gonna be the case, I can see Charlotte going under center and running the ball like that. Whatever you got to do. This is the game where your offensive line has to impose its will.
Yep.
You've had your will imposed on by two better teams. It's your turn. Turn the tables, find a way to run the ball, open up play action, get some of your playmakers the ball in space. One other thing for Monmouth, they do have a couple FBS transfers coming in, a linebacker from Coastal, a kicker from Eastern Michigan, and they really didn't lose a lot of talent. They lost a D lineman and a linebacker to the FBS. So this team, very cohesive. Hannah told us off the air their head coach has been there as long as the program has been there. So there's a lot of continuity with this team. Any other thoughts on Monmouth from you guys?
Check the ball, snap it.
Yeah,
Let's see what happens. Saturday,
let's
here we come.
let's go to work. All right, so how this gonna flow? So now I'm gonna plug the audio from Jeremy and I breaking down the North Carolina game. And at the end of that, there's a little teaser. We're going to drop a pod with Tom Whitestone, Charlotte's SID, here in a couple of days. The Hall of Fame game is this weekend. We're going to sit down and draft all-time Niner teams. It'll be two teams, so really excited about that. Looking forward to bringing you guys that. And as always, appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back with more soon. All right, guys, we're here. Recording this a little separate from the rest of the pod. You'll catch two of us and then Hannah later. Recording different times of the day. But Jay, we watched a pretty tough game Saturday night. The lore of the game was massive. I mean, obviously Bill Belichick, eight-time Super Bowl champion. First time the Tar Heels came to campus, the biggest crowd in program history, 19,233 fans in attendance. And they were disappointed for much of this. The first drive, admittedly, I'd sit back in my chair and I look at you and I was pretty much just like, here we go. North Carolina scores on the third play of the game. Two easy conversions before that, and then boom, Gio Lopez hits a 51-yard touchdown, and it seems like they're kind of off and running. Want to open it up to you, man. Just overall thoughts, takeaways from Saturday night's loss.
Um, you said to hold the takes till the end, right? So I don't want to jump in too much. I guess overall thought is just this was a very winnable game.
Yeah.
UNC is a very beatable team. And as we heard in the post game, as we talked about in the press box, the unforced errors, the missed opportunities is going to come back to haunt this team. I don't know for how long, but when you hear it against App State, when you hear it against Charlotte, and I know App State's a little bit of a different scenario, but this one to a much higher degree, the game was there for a lot of it. It was there for the taking. It was there to get the fan base into the game and really have that 12th man on the field. And Charlotte just came up short multiple times. So I guess my main takeaway is this was there. I'm not saying they could have or they would have beaten UNC, but man, 3 points. I mean,
Yeah.
man, for a lot
And
of man.
in my mind, they left at least 10 points on the board. Like you think about the struggles early in the game, right? We talk about North Carolina basically jumping out to a quick 10-0 lead. The first drive, obviously, touchdown, they get a field goal. And at this point, you're kind of feeling like Charlotte's got to find a way to do something. They go three and out the first three drives of the game. They don't run a play in North Carolina territory until the second quarter. And I mean, it's just a struggle on offense, right? Harrell starts the game 2 of 5. We're kind of looking at each other like, here we go again. They just can't do anything. There's no continuity, no chemistry, and their run game is nowhere to be found. They get a field goal relatively early in the second quarter, and you feel like, okay, at least they got on the board. We'll see what happens, see what the defense can do. And I'll shout out the defense now. After giving up, you spot them 10 early, they tightened up for the most part. I guess we'll work through the game and I'll talk through some of that.
Yeah,
Biggest,
sorry, can we start at the first quarter after
yeah,
you say what you're gonna do? Okay.
yeah, biggest. Well, you go ahead in the first quarter then. So,
All right, first quarter, like you said, they got off to a hot start and they go two plays, two first downs. They go short, short, and I'm thinking in my head, all right, the DBs are kind of like, let's try and sit on these short routes now. And the second you do that, boom, over your head, quick
deep ball.
touchdown. And then they have a field goal, and before you can blink, the score is 10-0. Before you can blink.
Yep.
And I want to toss it back to you after that because it's 10-0. Now you might have to switch the way you were trying to game plan or call plays, and everything changes because the game starts and 5 minutes into the game, you're like, you look up at the scoreboard, you're like, how the hell are we down 10-0?
Yeah. No, it's you see cornerback Ty Baldwin get beat on that play, and he started the game at corner. After that drive, he only played 14 total snaps, so he didn't play much more after that. But in while he was in the game, he gives up three targets, three completions, 74 yards, and a touchdown. So I think the swap at corner was big for them. Dwight Boodle played a ton of snaps. He led the way with 40. Gavin Shipman, CJ Clinkscales, and Derek Edwards kind of rotated in at corner. But you're right. At that point, you're down 10-0 and you're thinking, I'm thinking this is about to get ugly, right? We saw what Appalachian State did, just taking whatever Charlotte would give them. But it did seem like they kind of settled in, especially in the second half on defense.
Yeah, so they go up 10-0. Charlotte gets the ball back, three and out. However, there was a possible missed pass interference where we were all kind of there, just like, that one was
Mm,
a little shaky. But UNC also had some missed opportunities too. It's 4th and 1. Freddie Kitchens decides to throw the ball deep, going a
yeah,
go ball
I'm
on
never
fourth
gonna
and one.
understand that. Yeah,
Exactly. Like, what are you cooking, Freddie? No pun intended. So I just don't. I mean, the first down for Charlotte was at 3:03 in the first quarter.
yeah,
And these are things where if you just told someone who didn't watch the game, you just told them these stats like, hey, Charlotte's first down came at 3:03. They were down 10-0 in the first 5 minutes of the game. All these things. They'd be like, Charlotte got blown off the map. What? It was 50-0? No. It
yeah.
somehow was still a game,
It's a
and that's
winnable game.
a
Yeah.
winnable game, and that's why I guess we're both here right now, so puzzled on how that game progressed and went through.
So moving to the second quarter, Charlotte gets on the board. It's a decent drive. You're feeling pretty good about what they have going on.
11 plays, 60
Yeah.
yards, 5 minutes, 27.
They go 11 play drives twice in a row, and that's when Harrell's kind of hitting his stride. I mentioned he starts 2 of 5. There's really nothing going on in the offense. Then he reels off 12 in a row, right? If your quarterback's completing 12 passes in a row, you need to be converting these drives into touchdowns. Even if they're not deep passes, he's not working the ball down the field. You have to convert here. So I think the biggest drive of the game in my mind, they're down 10-3 at this point. They just gotten the ball back after this long drive. Everything's going right. Pass game's working. Sean Brown gets involved. Finally, his first target, first catch, first down. Where have you heard that before? Chains are moving. You feel good. You get into the red zone. Todd Fish draws up multiple run plays in a row. And if you look at the stats, I'm not even going to take the sack totals out right now. Charlotte's averaging zero point 0.7 yards per carry, not even 1 yard per carry. Drive stalls, you end up kicking a 26-yard field goal. I'm telling you, in the press box at the time, go for this. Like you have this is the first time North Carolina's been on campus. It's the biggest crowd in history. Don't play for the tie, Tim Albin. Go for the throat. Tie this game. Or don't play to be around. Play to win the game. That's what I'm trying to say. And they settle for a 26-yard field goal from North Carolina transfer kicker Liam Boyd. Clanks off the left upright, and it feels like all momentum is lost.
And you talk about Harrell, stringing together some first downs, completing 7 or 12 passes in a row. Henry Rutledge comes into the game, has a first down run, and I write down 6:23 left in the second quarter. The crowd is back into it. You
Yeah,
have gotten Jerry Richardson Stadium back into it. In the beginning, all that light blue in the stadium, they're up 10-0. It's a little quiet in there. And then you
yeah.
can see Charlotte start to bring back that 12th man, and that missed field goal just absolutely sucked every piece of life out of the fan base.
And it's so funny, man, because I know like the listeners of this pod have heard Hannah and then us talk about Henry Rutledge, Sean Brown for years now. And it was literally like Henry gets that carry and the audible gasp in the crowd is like, I'm tweeting about it. Like Sean Brown's got a catch. Henry Rutledge has the only explosive on the ground all game. And you know what happens after that? You never see either one of them again. Henry Rutledge plays 5 snaps, has 2 carries. His first one got blown up. He was hit as soon as he got the ball in the backfield. Then the second one is literally their longest rush of the game. And you're wondering at this point, what is the deal? So,
Quickly, in Sean Brown's defense, though, he did get hit and he left the game, and that was an
yep.
injury-related reason. You couldn't say the same for App State, but for this UNC game, we saw him limited, I think mostly because of maybe that injury he sustained in the second quarter.
Yeah. And that's something we're gonna watch, right? I keep getting pinged, added by people, ask this, ask that. It's like, guys, we're asking. Like, trust me, if we first question, first chance we get, we're asking about the playmakers. So don't worry about that side of things. Then in my opinion, the biggest, I guess, North Carolina's biggest drive of the game is right after that, right? So instead of maybe tying the game with a touchdown or even cutting into the lead with a 26-yard field goal, none of that happens. The air is sucked out of the stadium. North Carolina gets the ball late in the first half, up 10-3. It's a slow drive for them. There's a couple back-breaking third down conversions by Gio Lopez, which is really kind of the story of North Carolina's offense. He bailed them out repeatedly. Their play calling was not great. You mentioned the 4th and 1 deep ball earlier. We'll never understand that. This drive is a slow, I guess, like a slow burning drive. And you get to the point, it's pretty late in the half. It's a third down situation. And Cary Grant, I don't know. I thought it was a questionable call. Like he's definitely late, but at the same time, it depends when the whistle was and where we were, we couldn't hear it. So he pulls up at the end of the play. Could tell it's not a full-fledged hit. They throw the flag as a 15-yard personal foul penalty. That sets up North Carolina in Charlotte's red zone. They're in business. They score a touchdown on the next play. Running back goes in untouched. That's the moment in the game where you're like, this could have been a tie game at 10 or at least 6-10, and your defense stands up and you're actually getting the ball in the second half. It felt like all momentum was lost at that point, and you just even in the second half, Charlotte had its chances to, as Alvin said, like put some heat on the Tar Heels. You kind of knew that if you don't get this moment, like that's probably their best chance.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And halftime comes and we're all looking at each other like, when did this game? I mean, just talked about it. We know exactly when it went off the rails, but can we move to the third quarter right now? Because we just went to a missed opportunity with the field goal, and now we're going to another missed opportunity. Third quarter, Charlotte gets a lot of penalties that help them and a lot of good throws from Connor Harrell, but the wide receiver drops the pass on a scramble on fourth down. And I write down again, missed opportunities. These is like plays you need to convert. This isn't a oh, second down play, we'll go back and get it. It's a scramble on fourth down. You go for it. Like Albin said, they're trying to put heat on UNC and it doesn't work out. And I get this is college, but it's a little harder to give a pass to, I guess, players in football because everyone on the field is a specialist. What I mean by that is if you're a wide receiver, you're in there to catch the ball. If you're a lineman, you're in there to block the defensive players. So when you see those drops on those big moments, you think to yourself sometimes, I don't mean to be overly critical, like that is a massive play. And
Oh,
that's
it's
really
huge.
all you're going through in practice. You are practicing making sure you are getting those passes and completing them in those big spots. And the missed opportunities, I'm dumbfounded by them. And we asked them last week, or I asked Connor Harrell and Tim Albin, like, you keep talking about these missed opportunities and communication. What do you do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to clean it up? Because you can't say it and then it constantly happens again and again.
Yeah, I mean, I talked earlier about 10 points left on the board. You missed the chip shot, gimme field goal. We saw a kid on college game day hit a 30-yarder, and your college kicker's missing in a moment like that on such a, I guess, like a chip shot kick. And then you're right, EJ Mason drops a touchdown. And maybe it wasn't the best ball by Connor Harrell. EJ had to go to the ground for it. But at the same time, man, this is fourth down. This is a touchdown to pull it within a one possession game in the second half against an in-state ACC school. And you look in the past, and I think the most frustrating thing, and we'll get to it later, but it's like none of these games in the fourth quarter matter at this point. So in this game, some big things happened in the fourth quarter for Charlotte, and none of them were good, right? Johnny King, your center, your anchor on the O line, captain, goes down with an injury. We don't know the severity of that. We asked Saturday night. He didn't have the results yet, so we should hear more today. So what happens with that? Right guard, Dallas Shirley moves over to center, and then I guess kind of a swing bench player, Devin Daniels gets in at right guard to kind of replace Johnny.
Kind of touching back on what you just said, these are big plays. You're playing an ACC opponent. And when we're doing the season preview before the first game, before App State, and we're doing the records for the team, the record predictions, and I said 3-9. And, I'm Chandler, shout out to Chandler for, like holding me to that. But you need to be able to convert these plays in order to reach that 5-7, in order to reach bowl games. Teams that reach the bowl games don't have perfect passes from their QB every single play. You need to go and make plays. And it's just frustrating to see that the margin of error is so small with a team like Charlotte right now, where
Yeah.
they're back breaking plays when you can't convert them.
And it's to the point, right, where we kind of have an idea that what's going to have to happen with this team is the defense is going to have to be really good. It's 2023 Biff Poggi first year kind of on repeat. The defense is going to have to be great, and the offense is going to have to find ways because right now they're scoring 7 points a game, and they haven't even scored a touchdown in both games. So when you look at the offense, there's a lot to figure out there.
So, like you just said, defense, UNC gets the ball back after the missed opportunity on fourth down, and the Charlotte defense is all over them. We talked about how in the beginning of the game they went short, short. They came out in the half, tried to go short, short, and the Charlotte defense made the right adjustments.
They
We asked
played
Shea
well.
Taylor about that. He said, "Hey, Nate Faunas at least knew what he knew what he was doing with those adjustments." And it's I guess that's the bright spot for the game where the defense was able to see what they did wrong. They were able to clean it up, and then for the rest of the game, it was fairly good. But then they follow it up again, the Charlotte offense, with a horrific possession. I'm talking the snaps going. You want to just talk about that part, man? I'll just give you the floor.
Yeah, the bad snaps in the offensive line is literally, I mean, you set yourself to a point where your average third down distance is over 10 yards. It's literally 10.1. And it's so crazy because they somehow convert 40% of those, which is better than last week. And you can't shoot yourself in the foot like that and expect to be in these games, right? Against a big school in a big moment for your program. I know the game is only on ESPN Plus, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand. That's Bill Belichick in town. That's the Tar Heels. Like you feel like that should be a television game. You have the chance, right? And they shoot themselves in the foot in a different way. Last week, it is all these first down penalties, all these procedural penalties pushing you back before you even start. This game, your senior center can't get the snap right with your quarterback, and that's something like of anyone on the offense, you probably have the most confidence in Johnny King to do the little things.
Yeah, I wrote this down and asked you guys in the press box when this happened. I talked about expected score in soccer, where if a team has one goal, but a couple of the shots hit the goalpost and ricochet off, or, the goalie makes an incredible save, or something happens, and you're like, look at the box score. They only had one goal. The expected score for that game was like 3.4, because that's what they predicted, or off of the game, that's what they expected the team to do. The expected score for Charlotte should be way higher than what the end game was.
At least
At,
13,
at
which
least
makes it
13.
fun.
Exactly. And that's the part that's just crippling because you see those mistakes, those missed opportunities. When again, we asked Connor last week on Tuesday, preparing for this game, how do you make sure you clean these things up? And he said communication, talking to the line in the huddle, making sure everybody's okay. And, it's happening again.
So, real quick on the offense, we asked him, Alvin, after the game, I asked him, like, talk about your quarterback, and he basically said I need to watch the film. So, we'll have an update on that in the back half of this pod. But after producing just four chunk plays, they did get to nine this game. So, it's a little bit more. I will say three of those are in garbage time, and I'm considering the Grayson Loftus snaps garbage time because at that point, you're down 20 to 3 with 6 minutes left in the game. On the defensive side of the ball, after allowing 18 chunk plays and almost 600 yards of offense, they cut that in half, right? They only allowed eight. You see improvement there. You drop that by 10, and they only allow a little over 300 yards per game. I think two things there. I think North Carolina's offense is not very good, and Charlotte's defense found its footing. We saw Shea Taylor on a ton of blitzes. They're not really getting to the quarterback. They didn't have a sack. They did have a couple QB hurries. Stuff like that's going to have to change. But I think something I guess I didn't notice real time, which I'm frustrated about myself with, is after being available to the media on Tuesday, DJ Burgess didn't play. That's one of the guys that we're talking about needs to be a staple on this defense. He's got to get after the passer. And if he's not going to, I think the guys behind him, Curtis Simpson, Braden Mullen, are going to have to play better. We saw Curtis Simpson get a start, and I think he's going to end up being a good player for this program. One other thing really fast, and I didn't mention it in the video I recorded the other day, but Javen Nicholas on offense coming in from LSU had 11 catches for 122 yards. If you're a box score watcher, you feel great about that. He's one shy of the program record. Austin Duke had 12 back in the day. The biggest thing I noticed about his is 58 of his yards come in garbage time when North Carolina is sitting in cover four saying, take whatever you want underneath. You're not going to beat us over the top. And I think for sure one thing we saw is the quarterback battle is finished. There's, I mean, I think the biggest thing here, Connor Harrell maybe didn't play his best game. It was better than his first game. Biggest thing for him, no turnovers, no turnover worthy plays. And then 6 minutes to play, Grayson Loftus comes in, and it's like, oh, man.
Yeah, when we were at the Tuesday media, I guess, availability leading up to the App State game, when the starting quarterback was announced, I remember Tim Albin said, spoke to Todd for a long time, and this came down to decision making. And I think that kind of
We
showed
saw that.
itself. We saw that where I'll give Grayson some rope here where one of the picks, UNC had 12 people on the field. So you're seeing ghosts out there, but like you're actually seeing an extra person. And I get it, a lot of the things you're just trying to move the ball downfield, but that's a perfect opportunity to show the coaching staff, hey, I can, be just as good of a decision maker and do all these things to throw two interceptions. So that was tough.
And so looking at it, I'll give him some grace on the Hail Mary at the end of the game. You might as well throw it up. There's literally
Exactly.
nothing to lose at that point. So I'll scratch that one. The play that North Carolina got flagged for 12, their last guy is running off the field. He just doesn't get off the field. So I mean, he
Really?
threw
Okay.
it
Yeah.
directly to the linebacker on that play. And it's like, I remember looking at you. I was like, we can act like that didn't happen because it gets negated. You're like, all right, we'll see. And then literally later on the same drive, he throws it another one that's right to the defender. And as soon as he lets it go, it's just like, ah. And I mean, you saw some all right things from him. He scrambled from the end zone. I'm not going to lie, I didn't know Grayson had that in the bag, being able to get away, pick up some yards instead of either taking a safety or just burning the ball. So a little bit there. but the pros are not outweighing the cons. You can't turn the ball over, and that's really, I mean, that's the only two turnovers in the game come at the very end. And when I look at this offense, obviously at that point in the game, you're just playing for pride, but like I do think Harrell's the guy at this point because if you're not going to be able to put points on the board, you at least got to be able to take care of the ball.
Is there anything else you want to say for the fourth quarter, or do you want to move to post game and takeaways?
I think let's go ahead and move to post game if you want to pick up with Tim there.
All right, so I asked Tim about the line of scrimmage, and this is something that I'm just going to keep mentioning throughout the entire season because I'm just going to keep mentioning it. I asked him, hey, after App State, you did say that the offensive and defensive line, you guys were just mauled. You
Yeah.
know, you can't win when you don't win at the line of scrimmage. Do you see any improvement? Did you see anything that happened in this game that maybe made you, come out with some level of optimism? And he said, we made progress at the line of scrimmage. The pad level was a lot better. We were getting lower in our stances. We were hitting better, but UNC was just heavy. And he said
Yeah.
heavy, that was the word he used. Said they're weighing on you. They're heavy. And that's another thing where we talked about this last pod. And if you're listening to this, I'm going to sound like a broken record for the next 10 games where I don't think Tim can say it himself explicitly, but my biggest thing right now with this team is that he doesn't have confidence in the line of scrimmage on defense and on offense.
Yeah.
Because everything we keep hearing is the opponents we're playing, they're big dudes. They're big, big guys. And it seems like a euphemism, at least to me, as we can't hang, at least for right now, based on the line of scrimmage.
And we'll get to the preview later, but this is a game where you have to dominate the line of scrimmage. Monmouth this week. This is your FCS team. It's the only one on the schedule. Back to post game. He said some interesting stuff, right? We talked about the QB play, and I want you to kind of dive in on this. You picked it up before I did, but when talking about Connor Harrell, he said the dual threat ability is a bonus for your dual threat quarterback who isn't running the ball.
That is He said that, and I don't want to just like contort my face in a certain way in a post game and have him because like we're sitting front row, so I don't want to be disrespectful or anything. But like you said, he said, "quote We saw Connor do some dual threat for us. That's a bonus." And I wrote down right next to that, that's his game. That's
Yeah,
like asking Stephen Curry or saying Stephen Curry hit some threes for us. That's a bonus.
yeah,
Stephen Curry is there to shoot threes. He
yeah.
is there to be a dual threat. And if him being a dual threat is a bonus, then we have to bring the QB controversy back up because I think he's out there for his dual threat abilities, not because it's a bonus. So
Right.
that just absolutely puzzled me. But I will say, Connor Harrell did stand in the pocket and make some throws.
Took
But
some hits.
if you expect him to be a drop back pro passer, pro style player for the entire game and not utilize the legs, then I don't understand what the entire game plan or offensive mindset is if you're seeing his dual threat capabilities as an add-on or a bonus.
I will say Todd Fitch called a couple design rollouts, which was more than they did in game one against Appalachian State. The problem with those plays is they're throwing not even to the sticks in second and third down situations. I want to see more option pulls for Connor too. There are plays where there are yards to be had. Like if he pulls the option multiple times, he could at least get 5, 6, 7 yards, which, as we talked about, is the corner three that makes a defense respect what you're doing on offense. And I think when you look at his line, 17 of 29, 140 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's not going to win you a game. That's maybe like a game manager. Where he starts to elevate the offense is on the ground. And you look at his line, I mean, it's 6 attempts for negative 24 yards with all the sack totals, the bad snaps. His longest rush of the game is 8 yards. And like I said earlier, if the only explosive run you have all game, explosive meaning more than 10 yards, is from Henry Rutledge, who sees 2 snaps, you can't expect much from the run game. When you're looking at the stats, 29 attempts for 21 yards. That's where you're at as an offense. Rod Gainey Jr. saw 6 carries. CJ Stokes, a true running back, 10 attempts, 7 yards, right? You're not you're not going to beat many teams. And one of the biggest takeaways I had from game one was Alvin says it's hard to play quarterback if you have no run game. So let's see what happens with the run game. And this goes all the way back to the lack of confidence up front. If your offensive line can't clear holes, it's going to be tough, really, regardless. Yeah, pick it up, man.
I'm gonna go to Shay Taylor's real quick, and then I kind of want to come back to one more thing Tim said before we get to big takeaways. So Shay came in to talk to us after Tim Albin, and he said, quote, I heard from other players that a loss like this in previous seasons usually divides the team. And that was kind of surprising to hear that he'd first say that in the media. I appreciate him for being honest, and that's the one thing so please keep just being honest with
Yeah.
us. That's all we want. We don't want cookie cutter throwing sprinkles on poop. We just want to hear it how it is. Like, come on. So Shay, thank you for just being straightforward. And he said, but I don't think we're going to do that. I don't think this team is going to fracture because of the guy on top in Tim Albin. So hopefully that stays true. But he said the same thing that we were saying, missed opportunities. I asked him about when they came out in the second half and they were able to really make some good adjustments. And he said, quote, who knows what happens if we get that stop? But again, we shot ourselves in the foot. So every player leaving that field for Charlotte had the same takeaway. This was a winnable game.
Yeah.
We didn't handle business on our side, and there's no one to blame but ourselves.
And I thought Shea Taylor played way better this game than game one. I mean, we talk about the defense as a whole. Shea has 5 tackles, tackle for loss, QB hit, one of the only 2 QB hits, as I said earlier. And one of the biggest themes of the game was, hey, it's third and short for North Carolina. There goes Gio Lopez for 5 yards, and they move the sticks. That was the tough part of the second half. Is North Carolina had some long drives. They had more 3 and outs than Charlotte. Charlotte's defense played well enough to win the game. If you allow 20 points in college football, you can win that game most times, right? At least in today's age of college football. Things that hold you back from that. Going 0 for 3 in the red zone, getting no sacks, and your starting quarterback only passing for 140 yards and having zero point 0.7 yards per carry. These are all things that compound and result in the 3 points and the second half shutout that North Carolina's defense pitched. I do want to say, I mean, you have to tip your hat to North Carolina. They won the game, but they gave plenty of opportunity for Charlotte to get back in the game, and it's frustrating to that point. But let's hit big takeaways, man. I'll start with this. You have the biggest crowd in program history. You are an underdog. We've let me lay the expectations out. Tim Albin was 1-3 in season openers. His first year at Ohio, they go 3-10. The turnaround generally starts, at least in his experience, in year two. So this result was expected. In my mind, if this program is going to continue to build and continue to have these packed houses as we're seeing, you have to at least make these games competitive, man. You eat just be close. It's tough watching this crowd empty out in the fourth quarter of all these massive games, dude. It's covering the team for 8 years. It happens so much more than it should. And it was crazy. The week leading up to the game, I get like a memory pop up, and it's 4 years ago today. Charlotte beats Duke. Grant Dubose breaks out. And that's one of the last times that I can remember looking around that stadium late in the game in the fourth quarter with a extremely packed house and being like, this team has a chance to win. That's 2021.
Yeah, my first year covering the team was in 22, and I mean, I'm just gonna be honest here, guys. I mean, in that App State game, after the Jaquarius Conley punch out that leads to a touchback or whatever the end result of that play was, Charlotte comes down the field, they kick a field goal. You, me, and Hannah look at each other, and we're just like, this is what it's all about, guys.
Yeah, that's
We're
why
in
we do
Bank of
this.
America Stadium. It's the Mayo Bowl. It's two North Carolina teams with new head coaches, new teams, new rosters, new everything from top to bottom. This is what it's all about. This is what college football is about, and it's just very disappointing that more often than not, these big games that are hyped up in the offseason, UNC's coming to town. We're playing App State. We're going to UF. All these things, they never pan out. And I just like for these games, one of these times to go down to the wire.
Yep.
Once, can we have a fourth quarter where I'm saying, Connor, game on the line, chance to win it, field goal wins the game. Can you lead your team down the field? They can't even put themselves in that position, and that's the toughest part. And I said this already, but all the offseason hype, this is why I said earlier, before even Tim got in the job, where I don't care what the introductory press conference is. I
Yep.
don't care what you say, what the buzzwords are, what the cliche words are. And I'm giving Tim grace because it is his second game as a head coach for this program. I completely understand that. However, as someone who's seen previous regimes here, it's very, very disappointing. And I do see a similar track where there's nothing more demoralizing than being in the press box and the fourth quarter comes and it is empty. And I mean
Yep.
empty in Jay Richardson Stadium. And then you hear on the intercom, record attendance. And they say,
Yeah.
and they say it. I know it takes time to get the attendance, count. So that's why they maybe say in the fourth quarter. Say it when people are still in the building.
Yeah.
Don't say it when everyone's cleared out. Because at that point, it holds no weight. So I guess my last takeaway, the last thing I'll say, and I don't want to be overly critical here, is Tim said something in the presser that just struck a chord a little bit. He said, it's going to happen at some point in time. It's going to happen. And as much as I do believe him, I think Niner fans hear that sentence and the sleeper agent, the Winter Soldier, activates, awakens in their brain where they say, I've heard that before. I won't say from who, but how many times, how many coaches, whether it's basketball or football, have said, it's going to come around. We're going to make changes. We'll be fine. It's going to happen at some point in time. And I really hope, I really, really hope this isn't
Yep.
a recurring thing. Monmouth, as we talk later in this pod, is going to be huge. I mean, going
Yeah.
into that game, that is a must win. That is a must dominate in every
Yeah.
facet of the game because if it doesn't, you start to see these things happen over and over again, and you think, is there a light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah. You're to a point now where you are, in my opinion, like where you expected to be at this point. And when you look at the win totals, when you look at the things Tim has said, like he says, we'll be a good team. I don't know when. And you look at the Vegas lines, all this is expected, right? Saturday, you have to win the game. And like I say, we'll get into all that later. I think the most important thing here for Charlotte is finding a way to score points. I don't know what needs to change in practice. The personnel could be the problem, and I think that's one of the differences now is like I haven't had that one-on-one conversation with Alvin off the record to figure out what's going on. I haven't had those conversations with Todd Fitch. You get the coach talk, you get the presser talk. What I want to see is some fucking confidence, dude. That's what I want to see. Go up there, be straight up with us about your team. Be straight up with us about what you are working with to change. That's what I want to see. That's the biggest thing. And you see this stuff right now with like Biff Poggi. He's kind of his name is like hot again right now. He's Michigan's head coach for the next two games. I'm thinking back. I watched some of the Poggi pressers last night, like thinking about like some of the best moments or funniest or just fucking craziest moments with Biff. And one thing is for sure is like he would get up there and say some wild stuff, but there was a level of confidence of like I might be saying some outlandish shit right now, but I'm saying it with my chest. I want to hear stuff like that from Tim, right? Fuel your team, get up there, be the guy that people want to follow because I know that he's that type of coach. You've seen it. We talk about putting good tape on film. Tim Albin has good tape. Tim Albin has been that guy. You have to put that out there for your team to follow. That's one thing that was on my mind after this last presser.
I'm glad you mentioned how this is where they were supposed to be after two games. You have App State, you
Yeah.
have UNC, you're underdogs in both games. You're two touchdown underdogs against UNC. So excuse me, I'm not saying that they should have like mopped the floor and been 2-0 or 1-1. However, these aren't things where it's like the team outplayed you. Maybe App State outplayed you, UNC did not. They
Yeah,
just didn't.
I
And
agree.
going into this game, I thought UNC, honestly, for being completely honest, I thought UNC was going to come in here after losing to TCU 48-14 and wreck shop on Charlotte. That's what I thought
And
was going
after
to
that
happen.
first possession, I was
That
like,
first possession,
here it
yeah, I
comes.
was like, okay. And I quickly realized this team isn't very good. This
Yeah.
team isn't very good. And to still put up that performance against a team that wasn't very good is a little disheartening.
Yeah. No, it's to a point now where when you, like I said, I mean, we talked about it on the emergency pod when Biff got fired. Whoever takes this job schedule wise, it's a labyrinth of hell. It's getting even harder now. USF is ranked. Just took down two ranked teams in a row, went to the swamp and beat Florida. And I think just for a second, I want to talk about that because USF is not much of a bigger, better program than Charlotte. They've had multiple 1 and 2 win seasons in the past, similar timelines to Charlotte, but you're seeing how fast the turnaround is. And whereas Jeremy, you traveled to Gainesville for this game, Charlotte was competitive. They lose, I think it's 9-22. It's a relatively close game, but you never get there. Other schools in the American are getting there, and I think that's where Charlotte's got to get to.
Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, Hunter, you and I talked for almost an hour on
Yeah.
Saturday night, just talking about stuff after this game. And one thing that came up was Charlotte right now seems to take positives from losing, and other American teams are just winning those games.
Yep.
I think of when I drove from Charlotte to Gainesville to watch the Niners go up against the Gators, and I say it myself, I said, wow, they're holding with an SEC team. They are really holding in this game. But the takeaway was they fought hard. It was a close-ish game. Wow, how impressive. USF in the same conference just walked in there and outplayed them. That
Yeah.
wasn't a calls went their way. That wasn't a, Florida didn't do it. No, they just outplayed them. So the standard can't be, hey, we gave them a fight. The standard has to be, we're in the American now. This isn't CUSA. This isn't Conference USA. These are games that, of course, we're the underdog, but we have to believe that we can win these games. And right now, it seems like there's no belief. It's instead, hey, we put up a, a semi-good fight, and that can't be the answer to these big games.
So just to put that in perspective, like a big picture conference look. So Tim Perdetti has seen Charlotte play live both games. The commissioner of the I almost said the AAC, the American. It's a Friday night massive game against App State, and then it's the Tar Heels with Belichick. I understand why you'd want to go to those two games, but he did forego USF in Gainesville for that game. And I'm sure he'll go to South Florida, or I think they play it in Miami next week. It's another ranked game for the Bulls. But clearly, like there are high hopes for Charlotte, right? They have high hopes for this program moving forward. They're talking about the stadium expansion. And the crazy thing is, even with the temporary seats, like that's a bigger crowd than they'll have, even with the expanded stadium that we're waiting another, what, 2 football seasons for. It's, I just want to see this program grow. And we're having the first Hall of Fame game this weekend. Larry Ogunjobi, people that are, I mean, he's a Charlotte legend. The first player to get drafted are coming back. We're gonna have a pod with Tom Whitestone drafting all-time Niner teams here soon. Definitely check that out. And when I look at this program, of course, the portal has changed things, but Charlotte's best players ever are walk-ons, dude. Walk-ons. Alex Highsmith, Chris Reynolds. I mean, it's so interesting how it works. And when I look at this team and what they're doing in the portal, talent-wise, it's not the same as in years past. And I think the biggest positive was okay, if the talent's not the same, the coaching is going to be better. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from Todd Fitch on offense. If you can only run for 1, 2 yards a game, like I mean, like I said, they average zero point 0.7 yards per carry. You have to adapt to that. You need to see a ton of screen game, extensions of the run game. You can't basically just say, "That's what we got." And it felt like that in the second half, especially when Loftus comes into the game and you're just kind of airing it out and trying to see what's about to happen.
Yeah, and I guess to wrap this up, this is the time when Monmouth, this is the time to get your lick back. This is the
Yeah,
time to have them come into Jerry Richardson Stadium and say, hey, we played App State, we played UNC, two
yeah,
marquee matchups. We're going to take all the anger and frustration from those games out on you.
yeah,
And hopefully we come back on next Tuesday and we're talking and we're saying, man, this team might have turned a corner. They got
yeah,
their confidence back, they got their juice back, and Jerry Richardson Stadium was electric. That's what I'm hoping happens. And I
yeah.
think we will see that happen. But for right now, we're about to go to the presser. We'll see what happens. But yeah,
Yep.
would just love to see some improvement.
Yeah, we'll pick back up. Jeremy and I, plus Hannah, here after the presser, have some takeaways and some thoughts on Monmouth. But appreciate y'all.